What's up, guys? It's the Activist Mechanic here. Now, in between working on my Porsche 911, we have a normal fleet of two cars that are our daily drivers that we operate. One is a 2002 GMC Yukon Denali, which I think you've seen me do brake jobs on, and the other one is my 2004 Toyota Tacoma. Now, luckily, the Tacoma is extremely reliable, knock on wood, so we haven't had to do much there other than change the oil. Now, the Yukon here, we've had to do quite a bit of work on it. And right now, I'm battling something that I think a lot of people can appreciate, and that's a squeal that's coming from the engine. Now, I traced most of that back to the belt of the pulleys, and in the process I've replaced the tensioner pulley, the idler pulley, the alternator, the belt, and yet we still have a squeak. We had a flat tire yesterday in our passenger front tire last week, Monday, and I took it in to get a new tire, ended up buying 4 new tires, and I said, hey, take a look at this squeal. This is after I'd taken it to Firestone about a month ago, and they couldn't figure out the squeal. All they did was replace the thermostat and charge me 150 bucks. So when I took it to this other place called GMC Tire here in Omaha, they looked at it and they said, it's definitely your alternator. I said, well, I've already replaced that. I replaced it a month ago. There's no way it could be the alternator. And they said, when you take the belt off and you spin the alternator, you can definitely hear the bearing. So their suggestion was, take the alternator back to warranty at Advanced Auto, get a new alternator and get a new belt. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you what I got to do to take this thing off. We're going to take it off. I'm going to go get a new one, put it back on. Hopefully we're good to go. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving and I'm driving 7 hours to Tulsa to see family, so I'd like to not have a high-pitched squeal coming for 7 straight hours in the car. First thing I'm going to do is start this thing up so you can hear this squeal. Yikes. Doesn't sound good too when you're driving around, and this is what it sounds like when you pull up. It sounds like you're driving some hoopty. So this actually sounds worse than when I took it to Jensen yesterday. It didn't sound near as bad, so we're going to replace the alternator here. Hopefully that solves the problem. So let me shut this off and I'll show you what all we got to do. Now, luckily, replacing the alternator is actually pretty easy. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the battery leads here. That's a 8mm socket. Then we're going to remove this fan shroud, which I've done about 10 times in the last 2 months. We've got 2 10mm bolts here, one here, and then we have these tabs down here. There's one there. There's another one right over here. Those are easy to pop out. We're going to remove this air intake, pull this thing out. Take the belt off, and then I got a pry bar. We'll just take this alternator out after we unplug it, and then should be good to go. So one thing I want to note is we're going to take a look at this hose right here because it sounds like it's coming apart, so we have to replace that because we don't want to send rubber into the air intake. So let's get going. Okay, now we're going to remove the air intake. Pretty easy. Unscrew here. Unscrew here. It's a pretty tight fit in here. Should come off. Here's where this is bad. See this ring here? Let me show this in better light. Yeah, that is not good. We're missing a complete seal there. So we definitely need to get that replaced. See if you can see it a little better here. So that bits of rubber could go into the engine. So that's a really, really bad thing because that goes straight into the throttle body. So we're going to try to find another one. I know it's made by K&N. Shouldn't be too hard. All right, so we'll set this aside. I'm going to remove these hoses from the fan shroud from there. And then this should slide right out. There we go. I've done this a lot of times lately. Okay, this next bit's pretty simple. Here you see we have our tensioner pulley. Here's our idler pulley, our alternator. Got power steering pump down there. We got our new thermostat down there, AC pump, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to use this right here, our tensioner pulley, take tension off the belt, pull the belt off. That's a 15 millimeter. So let's do that real quick. See if I can do this with one hand while holding the camera. Need more tension than that. All right, let's set this down. Okay, here's our belt. All right, belt is off. Okay, now it's time to remove the alternator. First thing we're going to do is unplug this back here, which is a 10 millimeter bolt. So let's just get that loose. Looks like it's a ground. Okay, next we're going to remove this connector here. There's a little clip in the back that pops right out. Okay, now we have our alternator. These are two 15 millimeter bolts we're going to take out. They come all the way out from back here. Now, the guy said that this alternator bearing was bad, and my thinking is that it might be the belt was too tight. Now, where's our belt? Here's the belt we bought right here. And the thing to note on this is that when I bought this new new alternator that was 130 amps versus 105 amps, because I thought, hey, more amps is better. And they said, this is the belt you want for 130 amps, so that's what I went with. The guy said that the belt is bad, which it actually does look kind of bad. But he also said the alternator was bad too. So if we spin this, we should hear something or see something that makes it look bad. So let's spin this. Now I can definitely hear some bearing that's bad. And what I also notice is this copper deal in here, you can see that it's kind of wobbly. You see that? We spin that thing, we can see that it looks like it's off. So this bearing definitely looks bad. So we're going to take a pry bar, we're going to undo these, pull these out, take a pry bar. This thing should pull right out. All right, those bolts are out, so let's just take this pry bar and this thing up here. It was way harder to get out the first time when it was newer, but this is coming out pretty easy. Say that. There we go, one alternator. Okay, so we have our throttle body air intake. That's bad. This part here is basically gone, so we need to replace that. Hopefully they have one at Advanced Auto. We have our belt that they sold us. Should be covered under warranty, but we need a new belt. And finally, we have our defective Gates alternator, which you can hear is bad. Now, the guy at Jensen said that I should go with the AC Delco because that was OEM. I think actually Bosch was OEM, but the OEMs are pretty expensive. So we're going to go back to Advanced Auto, see what they have. Let's hopefully we get it right. I think maybe the belt was wrong and that it was putting too much pressure on this bearing, and that's maybe what caused it to go bad. But either way, it should be covered under warranty. So we're going to take this back, get some new parts, put this thing together, and hopefully there's no more squeal left. Okay. We're back from the parts store. We came back with more things than we took with us. So first thing is our old belt. Turns out I bought this from O'Reilly Parts, not Advanced Auto. So he took one look, he said that's not our belt. Good thing is it's probably still warranted, so I'll take this belt back and either get some credit or some money back after we're done with this. K&N part. They have a few K&N parts, but they do not have this elbow. And when I looked online, the best I could see was that it was part of a kit. Kits cost about $280 to $350. So what I did is on the way home, I called K&N and I explained what the situation was, and they were going to send me this elbow for free. So +1 for K&N Auto Parts. They're going to warranty this and send it to me for free. I didn't give them a credit card. I didn't even buy this. It was on the car when I bought it. So they're just going to send me one. Should have it in 3 or 4 days. So we'll just have to go with this until then. So next thing is we have our alternator. Whoa! We have our alternator. Same alternator. When I took it back and said, hey, this thing doesn't work, they said, well, let's bench test it. They threw it on the bench, spun it, didn't make any noise, came out, tested fine, said it was working. So looks like the guys at Jensen were wrong. It is not the alternator. So, that being said, my only other course of action was maybe I had a bad belt. So I got a new belt from Advanced Auto. This is the CarQuest Daco. This is their best belt, about 30, 40 bucks. So we're going to put this on and see what happens. So first things first is we're going to put the alternator back in. Okay, last time I did this, there was a little bit of finagling getting in there, and I put some WD-50. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of this. Not very much, just enough to make things fall into place a little bit easier. So we'll just put a little bit of grease in there. Hopefully that will get things in there nice and easy. Should slide back in. All right, now, alternator, go back to your home. There's one side. So what we're going to do is get that bolt back. So we have one side in. Okay, there we go, there's the other side. Whew, that was way easier than last time. So spin those down. These are 15mm bolts. Okay. Whoops, that's the wrong way. It'd be better to use a impact drill with these to go a little bit faster, but socket wrench is going to be just fine today. Let's Get that nice and tight. Okay. The other one. Okay, nice and tight. Took our, hook this ground back up, so we have that done. Okay, cover that back up. Put our pin in. Okay. Now, next up is put our belt on. Now, most cars have this, but you'll notice that we have a map here of our belt. So it's going to go around the idler, the tensioner pulley. Here's the idler pulley. Here's the alternator just put in, power steering pump, etc. So, got to feed it through there. Hopefully it won't be too hard. We've done it a million times at this point. And get that thing back on. Okay, the belt is back on. Pretty simple. I will say about this belt is it seems a little bit looser than the one I took off. So maybe the extra tightness of that other belt is causing the problem. This one went on just way easier. So let's hope everything looks pretty good. So everything's on there pretty straight. Looks like it's done correctly. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the fan shroud back on, and we're going to put the air intake back on, connect the battery, and we should be good to go. Piece of rubber. That's not good. So just notice that because our air intake hose is pretty jacked up, it's not providing a good seal with the air intake body, so that could be a problem. So I'm going to have to rig something up with that. Okay, moment of truth. We got the belt on, we got the alternator on, we got the throttle body air intake on, although we had to use some duct tape to get it to work. Hopefully that'll be alright. We are going to get a new one from K&N next week. Now we're going to fire it up and see if we fix the squeak. I will just say that I'm not very confident. Here we go. Take a look. The belt, it's running good. Everything seems to be operating. That might just be a win. Alright, well thanks for watching. Hopefully you got it sorted out. I'm going to take this thing for a test drive. The brakes again, we'll update you guys. Thanks for tuning in.